Hi, this is Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart, and today is Friday, December 6, 2013. And in this video, I'd like to cover the solar stocks, several of which are active short trade ideas on the site, and I just added a new one today. CSIQ is another short entry to be triggered on a breakdown. We're right at the on the uptrend line there, so that one may trigger an entry here today with any more downside in the solar stocks. So what we're looking at here, this is a chart of TAN. For those of you in the trade, TAN is also an active short on the site. You can reference the live chart by using the post by ticker symbol drop-down box that's located on the right-hand side of the home page. Just use the drop down, go down to TAN, just type, once you do the drop down box, just hit the letter T on your keyboard. That will bring you all the way down to the T's. Give you a little shortcut from scrolling all the way down there. Quite a few symbols. And that will bring you to the previous charts and notes on TAN, including the actual chart that the trade is based off of. I'm using a different charting program here, which is a little more fluid for doing these videos, a little more user-friendly, if you will, in drawing trend lines and making annotations. So again, reference that chart. That will give you the specific suggested a profit target. Here I have it drawn as a target zone on this chart because there is a gap there. That's where I expect TAN to find the first decent support and reaction, have a bounce off that level. However, I place the buy to cover suggested target right at the top of the zone on that chart. So again, you can reference the live chart for that. But the key points to this chart are this trend line here. We had this uptrend line here, which triggered the short entry on TAN, and prices are beginning to move down pretty impulsively. We're down, over 2% today, and from the look of this chart, I think there's a good chance that the top of that target zone will be hit. Something I had mentioned on a lot of these solar stocks recently in the other post was this huge volume surge here, which is indicative of a buying climax. A buying climax is something that you will see after an extended run. As you can see here, this is again, we're looking at the ETF. These aren't any individual names which have much higher returns, a lot of the individual stocks, but the ETF itself went from about $12.50 in the last year all the way up to the $42 area. So quite the run there. And again, when you see this late stage buying after such an extended run, it often, not always, but often is indicative of a buying climax. The herd chasing returns, and then you see the institutions and the smart money more than glad to hand those stocks over to the dumb money, i.e. the retail crowd who's chasing those names. So we'll see how it pans out. But that's TAN. And again, you can reference the individual post on the site for specific notes. GT Advanced Technologies. This one is indicative of quite a few of these solar stock trades. What happened here on GTAT is we shorted here. We shorted this trend line break. I believe that was the short entry there. And we went on quickly to hit the first target, and the entire sector, including GTAT. Now, GTAT actually, I should say, bounced up on a news-induced gap, and I shared my typical strategy when getting caught on the wrong side of a gap, whether you're short and a stock gap's up or you're long and a stock gap's down. I like to let the dust settle on the initial gap, the order imbalances, let those clear out and set the stop just above. So some of you may have been stopped out, and if not, I'll just go ahead and cover this. The stock gapped up, pulled back down, slightly exceeded that gap, so that may have taken a lot of people out. And then since then, the stock has fallen, and that to me is a bearish technical event here, because what happened is we broke above. This red line was a key resistance level marked by these previous highs. So the stock gapped up, broke out to a new all-time high, traded above there, but failed to hold that level, and is now moving down pretty impulsively. So that is a fake out or a bull trap. A lot of new longs will jump into stocks because typically new highs are bullish. And when the case that those new highs aren't built upon, it's one thing to see a stock come back in, test that level, maybe go slightly lower, but at this point you can see we've come way off. What is that percentage terms? Well over 10% drop from there. So this one, in my opinion, does have a good chance of going on to hit some of these additional targets. So whether you're in the stock or looking for a new trade idea, this is one you could enter now. And at this point, I think it'd be prudent to have a stop above this, the bottom of this gap here, which comes in around the 950, 960ish area, and that is GTAT. This is CSIQ. We're looking at a daily chart again here. Canadian Solar. This is the one that was just added as a short setup today. That setup will be triggered on a break of this downtrend line. Again, how you trade that, assuming that you are comfortable with short trades. The overall trend in the U.S. markets is still solidly up. Everything but the shortest term time frames. So shorts are counter trend trades, and some traders might want to wait for either a very solid move down below or even a daily close below the trend line, where more active traders want to get a jump on a breakdown or a breakout of a pattern, and we'll go ahead and short any breakdown of that. So again, that's personal preference. Another option is to take a partial position on the initial breakdown and then add on a confirmed close below or any downside follow through. With all that being said, my preference is still to keep positions, counter trend trade positions on the light side right now until we have some half decent evidence of the broad markets rolling over. But with that being said, CSIQ looks like an attractive short entry here. This one, when I look at the MACD and RSI, which are the two of the main indicators that I'll use in my trading, we don't see, it looks relatively healthy. We're not seeing any negative divergence here. So it is possible to see what I could see happening with this and some of these other solars is maybe a breakdown, a move to hit this early target, and then a bounce back up to make a new high, with the MACD making a lower high, as well as the RSI putting in negative divergence, and then these may become longer-term swing trades. So that would happen most likely sometime in the first, possibly second quarter of next year. But as of now, I think if and when this stock breaks down, there's a pretty good shot of hitting this first target at the very least. There is some gap support there around 2563-ish. Just something to keep in mind. So then again, for those of you wanting to wait for confirmation or a point to add on, you might wait for that level. Volume at price histogram looks pretty thin here. So I think if we do break below this first target level, there is going to be some support there. I do expect a reaction. But if and when prices break there, looks pretty thin, and I think T2 has a good shot of being hit. So as I noted here, let's see that there it is. T2 is my preferred and final target at this point, and I would only extend that to T3 if the broad market rolls over and the solar sector continues to look bearish at this time, or at least at the time prices are approaching T2. I always make a point, I don't add targets after the fact, so if T2 is hit before I extend this, that will be the official target, and I'll pull the trade, maybe add it back on as another one, and that is CSIQ. Okay, next one up is HSOL. This one's worked out nicely. Again, you'll have to reference the previous post. I believe it was a breakdown from this bearish rising wedge. Sometimes I'll short these within the pattern if I think there's a high probability of breaking down. So either way, I know the trade is profitable. It hit the first target for a pretty decent gain. First target here was 340. And as expected, if you zoom in, this is why I list these targets. There's multiple targets because some traders are quick traders preferring to take shallow profits, while other people prefer longer term swing or trend trading. And then there's the more active traders like myself. I'll often play a trade off these target levels where I can cover a position, sometimes even reverse for a quick long if the charts confirm, but at the very least wait until that level breaks. So as is often the case, we had prices hit the first target almost to the penny, bounced around and consolidated. This is called a reaction. Prices bounce, and or consolidate around that level, and now we've broken down through and prices seem to be moving away from there pretty impulsively. This is a 200-day moving average, but I discount it because I don't see any. That stock really hasn't had a lot of acted well off that level, so I don't think that's going to give us much of a problem. I'm more focused on this thin zone here. Not a lot of trades at this point, so I think as long as the sector continues to sell off, I think there's a good shot of this T2 final target being hit. Again, like a lot of those stocks, if you look down here, nice big volume surge at the highs, so a lot of buying in there, and then some pretty impulsive selling following those that high. So that may be a buying climax on HSOL. And if so, this looks like a very solid final target. I wouldn't extend the trade from this point if and when we get there. That would be where I'd cover my position in full. And that brings us to JASO, JASO. And this one actually got me here. We had a very well-defined resistance level. You can look at all these reactions here, here, here. And I had my stop set above there, and this one did take us out, took me out. Some of you may have held it. You know, if you're a longer-term trader, and you were going for T2, you could have easily had a higher stop. And if so, I'll touch on it. So this, again, the reason I'm focusing on this trade, even though it's been taken off the site, it was stopped out. This is indicative of what I'm seeing with a lot of these solar stocks. We saw these breakouts. Again, that is viewed in the eyes of most traders as a bullish event when you have a new breakouts to new highs, especially above a well-defined resistance level. This wasn't just one prior reaction. It was a well-defined level. Prices broke through, and then from there, very impulsive selling. That shows that breakout got sold into. We had this nice uptrend line here. I may have modified it. I believe I did modify this uptrend line since the previous post that I had on the site to more accurately fit the price action in the stock. So either way, that trend line has now been broken, and this was my first target on the trade. So if you're in the trade, if you held on, at this point you may want to hold out for T2, especially if you held on. From a risk-reward perspective, you would have extended your stops quite a bit, and it only makes sense that you hold out there for the second target. On top of that, we had very nice negative divergences at the highs. I'll draw those out here for you that aren't familiar with how divergences work. From that point back here to here, the prices made a higher high. And if you look down below on the RSI and MACD, we have a series of lower highs, and that is negative divergence. So you have a divergent, multi-month divergent high and a breakdown of a nice trend line, and that is why I'm favoring this target down here. Now there is quite a bit of price action between there. It's hard to say if it's going to get there or not. And again, this all depends on what the solar sector and the broad market does. This market has had a relentless bid beneath it that will not last forever. So if and when the broad market does start selling off hard, you're going to see a rush out of all these high-flying, high overextended momentum stocks, and the solar stocks fit into that category. Okay, this video is getting a little bit longer than I wanted, so I'll just fly through these. I'll go through with the watch list. I've skipped a couple within TAN, but I'm just going to pen through this watch list and move on. This is YGE. Nice trend line. As you can see, your uptrend line broken. You can see the action off this trend line. Prices found support. Well, let's start here. That's where trend line starts. We had a tag of it there. 3 points really makes a trend line, in my opinion. You can draw a trend line from any 2 points on a stock chart, but it's really that third touch that validates a trend line. Then we had prices bounce and really hug against that trend line, finally break down. And you see the impulsive selling after that trend line was broken, this little flag type continuation pattern, and now prices moving out of that. Or I should say, continuation pattern, moving down pretty impulsively. This would be a nice target. So I'm not recommending to short this one here. It's really come down too much, and we're coming up on support. But just trying to give an overview of the sector and how it looks. Renee Solar, I believe, SOL, and nice trend line. Same story, breakdown, and then boom. very impulsive selling. We had that gap down, and this one I had on my watch list. I don't believe I shared as a trade idea on the site. Wish I did. Wish I took it myself. But if I did, this is where I'd be covering right here. This is my target. So that one has support. If it breaks through the top of this gap right here, then next obvious target would be the bottom of the gap down here. So probably looking at a bounce sometime soon in there. But again, let's move ahead. First Solar, let's see. Let's clean this chart up a little bit. There we go. That's just a trend line to watch. First Solar is one of the bigger names in the industry, and looking okay. I really don't have much of a position on this. Let's watch and see what happens if and when it gets down to this trend line here. This is the uptrend line that I'm watching on First Solar. Okay, this is TSL, Trina Solar. Similar, we have an uptrend line here, so this one has a little downside left, and my guess is we'll probably hit this trend line sometime soon, but that's not enough meat on the bone to chase. So I wouldn't be, especially looking here where we have this previous reaction high, which may come in as support. There's also this consolidation level here, so I should put this support line up. That is going to be support here, and then just below that we have an uptrend line. So there's some pretty decent support for TSL. And of course, for those of you who are more bullish on the solar sector, these are spots to take a long position. This is a low risk long entry. I wouldn't go off this trend line. I would wait. I think if we do hit that trend line, even if we bounce, we'll probably come and visit this uptrend line very soon. So depending on how the charts look at the time, that might provide an objective long entry if and when we get down to this uptrend line with a stop not too far below. So that's TSL. JKS, Jinko Solar, very nice, well-defined ascending channel. That one could provide a short entry on a break below the channel. Like a lot of these solars, we don't have a lot of divergence. There is some negative divergence on the MACD, the RSI down here. Not on the MACD. So if and when that one were to break, it does look a little thin here. We'd have support. That would be my first target on that, about 2075-ish, call it, maybe a little bit above that. So that's still a pretty decent shot. But again, we're so close to the bottom of the channel, which acts as support, and you'd need to see a break below that channel, and we may get a reaction. So I don't have much of an opinion on this one now, but it's something to keep an eye on. Keep on our Solar City, SCTY, looking okay for now. Here's our uptrend line. This is what we have to keep an eye on. So we're still well above that. I wouldn't be adding to it here if we're bullish, because we're in no man's land. Maybe on a tag of this uptrend line, you can go long or wait for a break below. But again, I'm just not seeing a whole lot on this chart that tells me where SCTY is going, so I don't have too much of an opinion. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, somebody on the site contacted me and they had a position or do have one in this, so figured it's worth mentioning. Okay, this is SPWR. I actually really like this one. Can't recall if I've added it on the site as a setup or not, or mentioned it, but it's looking pretty good here for a short. We have this pretty decently, not the best, but a nice uptrend line off the looks like late November 2012 lows. Quite a few touches here, and prices have recently broke below that uptrend line. So if we look at the highs here, I draw this uptrend line here on the highs, and that gives us negative divergence. Now the MACD has made about equal highs, so this is what's referred to sometimes as flatline divergent. It might be slightly lower, but the point is the MACD and the RSI are making either equal or slightly lower highs, while prices have made substantially a series of higher highs. So that is a bearish rising wedge pattern with negative divergences or flatline divergences, however you want to refer to those. And here's the prices haven't really done much. We haven't seen a whole lot of action here. This can go either way. This one can come up to back test the wedge, or we may just start to fall sharply. Now, if you just think back to all those charts I just covered, we've seen a lot of action like this where stocks have broke down, some have come up to make marginal new highs, and then we've seen some very impulsive selling, even a few big gaps. So my preference, or at least my primary scenario, would be to see prices move down, start to move down impulsively, especially now that TAN, pretty much the sector itself has broken down and is clearly looking bearish. So here's a volume at price histogram bars. There's a big drop off here. This is a very great support line, and this would be my final target on that trade. There's another, some resistance or support right here, call it the 2035-ish area. I could also put a horizontal support line here. So for those of you that might not want to jump the gun, and I do understand that with the trend and the broad market still up, this is very decent support here. We have this reaction here, another one here, reaction high, a couple more reaction highs. So I'll probably go ahead and add this to the site with SPWR as a short entry on a break below this level, which you can replicate this chart yourself, but that's about the 2775-ish area. And if so, that would give us a target all the way down here, ultimately of 1783. I may add another target there, an earlier target around 2035 or so. So that's SPWR. Okay, that wraps up the solar stock video. This has been Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart. Hope you found it useful. Have a great day.